excited. I know I'm not supposed to say this, saving the best for last, but we have Emily with us today, my dear, dear friend whom I love. And I know all of you know her. You know, she created Back to Life, the best VSL offer ever. But I'll let you tell you more about her path in a second. Hi, Emily.
Hi, Anna. Thank you so much for having me on.
I'm so excited. I cannot wait to see what you have in store for us. But first, just in case we don't have everyone knowing who you are, which I doubt, tell us a bit about yourself.
Sure. Yeah. So, and I'll get into my history a little bit more on the speech, but basically, I own a product called Back to Life, the Complete Healthy Back System, that's been selling online for about 4 years. It's the #1 selling back pain video program in the world. And I'm not only the creator of the method, but I'm also the copywriter, sole business owner, kind of do everything when it comes to the marketing of my product.
And that's true, guys. It's true, right? Some people say, "Oh, I do it all," and maybe they have only 10 more people helping them in the background. But Emily really does it all. So, oh, well, I'm so excited to see what you have prepared for us and your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you. Should I just dive right in?
Yes. Let's go.
Awesome. Cool. Well, I just want to thank everyone who's here watching. I'm really excited to share this with you today. Today, I am going to be talking about writing sales copy and how to write really killer sales copy that overcomes the customer's two biggest barriers to buying. And this is going to be applicable for people who are product owners and write long form sales copy, but also to affiliates who write shorter ad copy as well. It's going to apply to everyone across the board. So before I dive into that though, I just want to take the first minute to talk a little bit about my history and how I discovered this copywriting process that I now use, just so it's a little easier for people to kind of understand, and so everyone can kind of understand that what I'm about to explain to you everyone will be able to take these steps and apply pretty simply. So I'm going to bring up a shot here to start. This first picture here, I'm going way back to the beginning here. This is a screenshot that was taken on June 30th of 2016. This was when I was very first getting started in the direct response marketing world. And as you can see, this was a text exchange. A good friend of mine sent me a text saying, "Hey, how are you holding up?" And this selfie is what I sent back to her. It was 11 in the morning. I was day drinking, and not in the fun kind of way. At this time in my life, I was just starting my online business, and I was really struggling. I was a broke single mom. I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. I knew nothing about online marketing. I had never studied marketing. In fact, I'd never even had a website before. But I knew people were making a lot of money online. So I decided I was going to try to dive in and create a product to sell. I was trying to figure out how to keep my house and how to support my kids at the same time. However, because I was so broke, I couldn't afford to hire a marketing person or even a coach. I couldn't even afford to take a marketing course. So instead, I decided to spend every waking minute doing the one thing, studying the one thing that I did have free access to, which was online sales copy. So I spent weeks and months doing nothing but reading long form sales copy, watching VSLs on repeat over and over again and typing them out. And as I did this, I was really trying to figure out how I could do what the most other successful VSL writers did. And the more I read, the more I started to notice patterns that I could break down and replicate. And you can see here I used a color coding system for these patterns. When I write copy, I map it out. I structure it all out. And many Post-it notes later and many highlighters later, and lots of time sitting on my floor surrounded by paper, I launched my first VSL in 2017 for the product Back to Life. This product took off so quickly, it hit 8 figures in sales in the very first year and has now continued at that level. I've sold over 400,000 copies of my product and counting, and I've been running at high scale on email and cold traffic now for 4 years. Recently, I have also expanded to partner as a coach in a new product called Pelvic Floor Strong by an amazing woman named Alex Miller. She is an absolute rock star. She launched her product in May, and with zero split testing and zero optimizing, she hit 7% conversion rate on email right out of the gate. Just with her first few email tests, she generated over $1 million in revenue in the first 60 days. And she's now starting to hit heavy scale on cold traffic as well. So super exciting to now be moving into partnering in these other products as well. So that obviously shows the best of it, right? Where I've come from here. But why did I start with this super unflattering picture of myself? Well, it's because I know for anyone watching, a lot of this stuff, especially when it comes to writing copy, can seem really, really daunting. But the steps I'm going to show you today are going to simplify this and break it down. And I hope that this picture shows you and proves that if I can do this, anyone can do this. All right, so carry that with you. I'm going to X back out of this screen now and come back to Anna. So we are going to dive in right now to talking about, again, these two biggest barriers that the customers have when they see our ads and how we can overcome them. And every time I sit down to write copy, I always start by thinking of the barriers first. I never automatically assume that the customer is going to want to just buy my product. Instead, it is my job to convince them and overcome these barriers. So in order to illustrate these barriers, I'm going to use an analogy today to help show what these two barriers are. I'm going to share my screen again. The analogy that I'm going to use today is of a castle. Right? So when we look at this image of the castle, I want you to imagine that your product lies within this castle. There is a treasure chest that is your amazing product, or the product that you're buying an ad for, that you want to get the customer to. But as you can see, with any good castle, it is highly guarded with two barriers. The first is the moat, and the second is the wall. These represent the customer's barriers to buying. The moat represents the customer's lack of emotional motivation, and the wall represents the customer's fear of failure. And in the psychological journey that the customer goes through before they decide to buy, they usually go through them in this order. First, they have to swim through that moat. They need the emotional motivation to swim through the moat. Once they get emotionally motivated, then they run up against the fear of failure that usually stops them up. So I'm going to tell you the two copywriting tactics to give them the emotional motivation they need to buy, and then help them overcome that fear of failure so they can break through that wall. Let me X out of here again. Sorry, it's a little not used to doing speeches.
I was taking notes. I love it. It's so helpful.
Oh, thank you, Anna. You're the sweetest. Okay, so we're going to start by talking about the lack of emotional motivation, that moat. And this is where our job is extra tricky as direct response marketers, because when customers go to purchase a product outside of direct response, maybe they head to a store or they do research about a product and go into an e-commerce site, they are currently in the emotional journey that is leading them to buy. There is something organically that's happened in their life at that moment that's led them to buy. Maybe something's broken in their house, so they research and then they go to Home Depot to buy something to repair it, or maybe they've had some sleepless nights and they're finally sick of it and they wake up and think, I'm going to CVS, I'm going to buy some melatonin. However, when it comes to direct response, usually when our customers see our ads, they're in a totally different headspace. So even if our product solves a problem that the customer is currently encountering, the moment they see our ads, they're not in that emotional journey. They're doing something else. Maybe they've logged on to Facebook after a long day and they just want to scroll through and relax, and then boom, there comes our ad, or maybe they're checking their email because they're hoping that their daughter has sent them pictures of their new grandbaby. That's the emotional headspace they've been in. And then they see an email come through that's advertising our product. We are literally interrupting their emotional mindset with our ads. So that's why we have to work a little harder to give them the emotional motivation to buy. it's known that customers buy based on emotion. So a lot of ads are designed to get someone's attention, right? We want to start with something that's like super clicky and super enticing. And that's great. That's very important. I'm not saying we shouldn't do that. But then in order to actually funnel them through to the purchase, that's where we need to help change their emotional state and get them in that emotional state to buy. Um, and the best way to do this, as most great copywriters know, is by using story. Research has shown that when customers hear or watch or read a story, their brain actually signals and emits the same chemicals as if they were experiencing it themselves. So that's why story hooks them in emotionally. However, we have to use a very specific kind of story in order to get them to go on the journey to buy. And I'm going to pull up some slides that help uh, kind of show exactly that story that we want to bring them on. I call this story the customer journey story. And it has 3 phases. It starts with the before, then the middle is the product discovery, and then we end with the after. The before represents the customer's pain, the moment of pain, the thing that they're struggling with, the thing that they're frustrated with. Then the product discovery describes the moment that our customer or we or whoever the character we're telling the story about discovers the product. And then the after moves the customer to the emotion of hope. Both of these emotions, pain and hope, are highly motivating. So we want to be sure to include both of them in this customer journey. However, there is a huge mistake that I see most copywriters making when they go to write this customer journey story. And that is they kind of skip through the before, they speed through that, and they get mostly to the after, the point where they're talking about all the wonderful benefits of their product and all of the ways the product has changed their life. And of course, this is really common, right? Because as product owners, we believe in our products, or even as affiliates, like we're excited to sell this product. And we're also existing in that point of the after. We've already gone through that personal journey. So we're living in the space of the after where we've had the benefits, we feel the hope. But we can't forget that when we encounter the customer, they're still living in a completely different space. They're living in the space of the before. So if we start by speaking to them from the place of hope, from the place of the after, we might as well be speaking a completely different language to the customer. Their emotions are not going to resonate with our emotions the same way. They're not going to connect into our ads, and it's just not going to hook them. So the most important thing we can do when we write this customer journey is to always start and spend more time emphasizing the before. This is where research is so important, where we take the time to research our customers, find out what they're struggling with, so we can come in at a point of the story to speak their language. All right, we are essentially trying to yank them with us along on this journey to the point of hope, to the point of the after, but customers won't want to go with us if we don't start at the beginning where they're starting and take them by the hand and relate to them on this before. Another reason why it's really important to always start with that before moment, with the pain, it is so much easier to motivate a customer to buy when they're trying to get out of pain. Natalie Hodson always uses the great example that it's so much easier to sell a customer a pain pill when they have a headache than it is to sell a customer a vitamin to help prevent them from getting sick. When a customer's in pain, they're highly motivated to buy. So that's why we want to start with this point of pain. Also, it just makes it easier for them to understand and relate to us when we start with this point of pain. And I'll X out of here. One of those reasons is because human beings bond the most over hardship, right? When we go through struggles together, that's what makes us form closer, and that's what makes us bond. So when you start with the customer's pain and describe a moment either of your own pain or a story of a customer you're telling who is in pain, that's actually the first step to establishing trust with the customer. So then as you take them through that journey and start telling them about the product, they're already going to be in the emotional mindset of trusting you and connecting you. One quick example of that is you might have noticed as I started this speech, I started with showing a picture of myself in my low point and talking about how hard I struggled and how hard it was. That was partly in the hopes that that will resonate with anyone who's watching this, who will be able to kind of connect with my pain and connect with this struggle and know that I'm not speaking from a position that's hard for you to get to, right? Like we're all in this together. What I'm showing you is something that everyone can do. So that's one big reason why we start with that pain. So that's the first biggest mistake that people use when they write story in their copy. They spend way too much time on the hope and the benefits and the after, and not enough time sitting in that pain with the customer and establishing that bond and connecting with them where they're at. The second big mistake that a lot of copywriters make when they're telling their stories is they have too many details and the highs and the lows of the story are lost. And this is so common. This is something I even do myself. In fact, when I sit down to write copy, I almost always just have to write a rough draft, tell the whole story first, with the idea that I know I have to get it out on paper, and then I'm going to go through and dissect. And here's exactly how I do that. And here's how I suggest everyone does that. First, go ahead and just free write out the story from start to finish, from the moment of pain to the ending of hope. Just free write everything you can think of. Then go back with a highlighter, reread through that story, and look for the moment. Kind of usually it's in the middle of the story. Actually, it's usually not in the beginning. It's usually more in the middle of where you've written it. Look for that moment that has the biggest impact, like the deepest low, or the moment that makes you feel the most uncomfortable and raw and vulnerable. Then you want to cut everything out that happens before that moment and start right in that deep, raw moment of emotion. And then once you figure out what that moment is, I encourage you to dig deeper, go further into it, make it hit even harder. And don't just tell the story. Start by actually describing a moment. Bring the customer into that moment with you and make sure you use your research to make sure that this is a moment that your customer's gonna identify with. Is this making sense?
Oh my gosh, so much sense. I love it. And you know, what you're saying are very, they sound like simple principles, but I never thought about it like that. So it's brilliant. I love it. And you're so right. We do it too when we write copy. So this is fantastic.
Yeah, we all do, right? Like it's hard to get to that really nitty gritty moment, but sometimes you just got to spew it all out on the page and then start cutting.
And then dig deeper. Like that stuck with me. You highlight that moment, but then you dig even deeper.
Yes. Yeah. I hate to say it this way, but you keep digging the knife. You keep digging the knife into your own emotional pain, into your own vulnerability, so that then the customer's more likely to connect with you. You're more likely to get their attention and resonate. So, okay, good. I'm glad this is making sense. I'm going to give a few examples now just to make it a little easier. And again, this is a principle that can apply not just to long form copy, but also to short ads. So here are a few examples of how you can do this with really any kind of product. A lot of times people think, oh, it just has to be like a health product or something that gives the customer a huge physical or health transformation in order to do this. No, you can do this with any kind of product. So the first example would be for somebody trying to sell some anti-aging face cream. A great way to start the story would be describing the moment that a woman is standing at the counter at the beauty store and the clerk behind her tells her, how sweet that you're out shopping on a shopping spree with your granddaughter, when really the woman is out shopping with her daughter. And you bring them into that pain point of being mistaken for being a grandmother instead of a mother. And you dig into that moment, that pain, that embarrassment. And then you go on to talk about how the customer discovered the right kind of anti-aging cream. And then you end with the after of, now when I go out with my daughter, clerks always mistake her for my sister, right? So that's like the happy ending of hope. Here's an example of how you can do this with a product that isn't necessarily very transformational for the customer. You might consider this like a product that isn't very emotional, but here's how you can tell a story about this product. So the product is batteries. I can't think of a more boring, plain product, right? But you can add emotion to this by telling the story of the moment a man was on the camp out, his very first camp out with his young son. And he felt like his son's hero taking him on this camping trip, but then the batteries died in the flashlight. And he saw the fear in his son's eyes, and he felt like he had failed his son and they were never going to get this moment back. Right? So there's that pain. Like, he didn't feel prepared as a dad. He had failed his son. His son's never going to want to go out and camp with him again. And then you go through the rest of the story of how they discovered batteries that last 10 times longer. And now he and his son have been camping 10 years in a row, and it's their favorite thing to do together. So those are just a couple of examples that you can use. Even in things as simple as Facebook Live videos. I do a lot of Facebook Live videos where I'll pitch my product. I always like to start even just with a quick sentence, like, after I suffered for years with chronic back pain, I thought that was going to be what my life looked like forever, but then I discovered this stretch, and now here are the benefits I have. So I always like to start by at least throwing something out there, a pain point that the customer can identify with. So this is how we can use story to help give the customer that emotional motivation to swim through that moat and get toward the castle. So next, we are going to talk about the next barrier to buying. And let me pull up my screen share again so we can get to this next image. This is the wall that the customer comes to after they're swimming through the moat, and the wall represents the fear of failure. Now, this fear of failure, I think, is actually can be a little more tricky to overcome than the emotional motivation. But if we use strategy in this, it can be, I'm going to show you a fail-safe approach with strategy to use to overcome this. But first, let's kind of understand where this fear of failure comes from so we know how to overcome it. This fear has been built over the customer's lifetime, brick by brick. Every single time they've bought a product that hasn't worked for them, a new brick has been stacked up on this emotional wall. And there are two types of fears of failure that the customer encounters when they hit this wall. The first is the fear that the product is going to fail, right? The second is the fear that the customer is going to fail. So every time the customer buys a product that maybe craps out on them, right, stops working after a week or two, that adds a brick to this wall. However, every time the customer buys a product that they fail at, that they feel like they are personally at fault for the product not working, that builds 10 bricks in this wall. So the fear of the product failing is kind of easy to overcome, right? You have a great return policy. You offer them money back, no questions asked. You talk about your customer service team and how they're there to help. But the harder fear to overcome is that customer's internal fear that they're going to fail, because you have to convince them something about themselves, not just about their product. So you might notice that a lot of copywriters, in fact, most of us, say over and over again in our copy, it's not your fault. If you failed in the past, it's not your fault. It's not your fault, not your fault. And that's a really important, it's really important psychologically to convince the customer that it's not their fault for failing, because that's what gives them the hope and the motivation to try again. They're usually afraid to try because they don't want to feel foolish again. They don't want to experience that personal failure. That hurts. That's like a knife in the gut. So convincing them that it's not their fault is kind of the first step in giving them the bravery and courage to start again. However, just telling the customer that it's not their fault is not enough, okay? They're not going to just believe them. We have to prove it to them. And in order to prove it to them, I always use something that I've started calling in my own copy process the hidden cause. Now, the hidden cause represents the one thing that has been sabotaging all of the customer's attempts to be successful. So we're not just saying it's not your fault. We're saying it's not your fault because there's been this one hidden cause getting in your way. You've been doing everything right, but there's one thing that you didn't know about that's sabotaging you. And that then helps the customer break down this wall and start to move through this fear. So let me talk to you about exactly how we can, position a great hidden cause in our copy. And you'll see this very prevalently in long form copy, but it also really works in short ads too. And I'll tell you how to do that. So in order to establish a great hidden cause that is really going to make the customer believe that it's not their fault and give them hope that this time is going to be different, it has to contain 3 really important elements. And again, through the research process, this is where we discover these 3 elements. The first element is that this hidden cause needs to be surprising. This has to go against the norm of what the customer always thought. And that's because basically, if it's something that's common knowledge, the customer will think, oh, well, everybody knows this. I should have known this. Lots of people fail at this. But if everyone knows this and they're still failing, then that's not very compelling. If it's something that's surprising to them and new, then it's like, oh, this is a new way that I've never thought of this before. Not a lot of people know this, so this must be a really exciting new discovery, something that's going to help me. And then that also helps dismiss their past failures because it's a new surprising thing that they never heard of. Here's an example of a great hidden cause that would sound really surprising to a customer. Let's say that you are selling a product that teaches customers how to maximize their tax deductions. A lot of customers have a lot of fear around taxes, a lot of fear of failure because all of us feel like, oh, I'm not doing this right. I'm not smart enough. I'm good enough with numbers to get my max deductions. So we need to position this new product in a totally different way that's going to give the customer more hope. So first we need to explain to the customer why they failed in the past, why they failed to get great deductions, why it's been so hard for them. So the hidden cause for this, the saboteur of what's made them unsuccessful in the past, could be that we say that most customers are not getting the max deduction because they're spending too much time itemizing their taxes and calculating all of their individual itemized items, rather than there's this broader deduction that most people don't know about that's just a single deduction that usually adds up to be even higher than the itemized deductions. So that sounds surprising to the customer because, hey, we all think we need to keep track of all our receipts and itemize and calculate. So this is a new surprising thing that gives us hope that there's a new way to do this and it's not our fault because we never knew about this in the past. The second key element to a great hidden cause is that it should help the customer avoid doing something that they hate doing. So it's going to be good news to the customer, this hidden cause. So in this scenario, you don't have to save your receipts and itemize your deductions. You can just click this one button and claim a max deduction that's going to be bigger, and it's going to save you from doing all this stuff that you hate. So again, this hidden cause is surprising, and it also helps the customer avoid doing something they hate, which is motivating. The third and final element to a great hidden cause is that it should help the customer get to do more of what they love. So in this example, by the customer being able to avoid itemizing all those things and doing all these calculations, spending hours on tax, we can now show them how they're going to have more time for doing the things they love, like going out golfing or enjoying a dinner out or just watching Netflix all day and not having to spend their whole day doing their taxes. So that's how this one hidden cause is surprising, helps them stop doing something they hate, and provides them the ability to do more of what they love. And again, during your research process, this is where you want to dig in to figure out what is it with most products that are similar to yours in any kind of niche? What is it that most customers hate the most? Let's say it's batteries. What do customers hate the most? When their batteries go out and they don't have the right size, they have to drive to the CVS, get more batteries. So, this new longer lasting battery helps them avoid that. What's it going to give them more of that they love? More campouts with their son, more time bonding as a family, and less time doing camping prep. Here are a few more examples. I'm going to give you 3 more examples of hidden causes so that this can really hit home and how they address all 3 of these key elements. So one hidden cause, let's say, and this could be like a short ad copy. You could say, personal trainers baffled by this 30-second breath technique that burns fat faster than running on a treadmill. So that could be like a short ad copy. And then in your long form, you could talk more about the research behind it, why this breath technique is activating your fat burning cells and all that, going to the science. So this, again, short ad copy or long form. And then it hits the 3 key elements of a great hidden cause by first, it's surprising. We show the customer it's not their fault. We start by saying personal trainers baffled. So customer thinks, oh, wow, if even personal trainers didn't know about this, they're the experts. And I didn't know about this, so clearly not my fault if the experts knew about this. It helps the customer stop doing something that they hate. So we're telling them they don't have to run on a treadmill anymore. I know there are a few people who like running on a treadmill, but most of us do not. So this hidden cause helps them avoid that. And then it helps them do more of what they love, which is having more time to relax. Maybe they would love doing some relaxing breathing more than they love running on a treadmill. So that hits all 3 of those key elements. Another great one, this is kind of common, where people talk about how you shouldn't eat a certain vegetable, right? This is often used, don't eat this vegetable if you want to lose weight, or stop eating this vegetable that's spiking your insulin and causing inflammation. Hits the first key point of being surprising, right? Because we've all been taught, eat your vegetables, eat your vegetables. We think we're doing it right. So it's surprising, hey, it's not my fault. I've been doing what my doctors and parents told me to do all these years. This is surprising. It helps them avoid doing something they hate, which is eating vegetables. I hate eating vegetables. I'd like to eat less of them. And it gets them to do something they love, which is maybe getting to eat more fruits, or getting to make simpler meals where you don't have to cook as much vegetables, right? The last example I'm going to give on this is, let's say you're selling a course for how to write copy and you want a good hidden cause. Maybe your customer has bought other copywriting courses in the past and they've launched products and they haven't worked for them. So here's a hidden cause of why they have failed. You could say 9 out of 10 copywriters fail because they've never been taught to use this one closing sentence. Right? So it's surprising because we're showing, wow, 90% of copywriters are all failing for this same reason. It's not my fault. Clearly, we're all failing for this. I've never heard of this closing sentence before. That's surprising in just one. It helps them avoid doing something that they hate, which most copywriters hate, having to rewrite all of their copy and go back and start from the beginning. So now we're telling them you can use just this one sentence and it's going to make all the difference. And it gets them able to do one thing that they love, which a lot of us love, making one change and seeing it make a big, big difference. So that's like super enticing for a lot of copywriters and marketers out there. So again, just recapping, that is how we overcome the customer's 2 biggest barriers to buying. We help them swim through that moat of lack of emotional motivation by using a journey story that really highlights the customer's pain first. And then we help them break through that wall of the fear of failure with a strong hidden cause that excuses all of their past failures and gives them the hope that this time is going to be different. And that's how you do it.
Oh my gosh, this is fantastic. I took so many notes. We do, our internal media buyers always write copy, and, this is super helpful, especially to me. My background is not obviously in copywriting, but I see it all the time, and this is extremely valuable. I feel like we all need to get our wallets, and this is so valuable what you're teaching us. Thank you so much. My God.
Good for you, Anna. I'm seriously so love being here with you. I love the community that you're forming online. So it's such an honor to come be a part of that, and all of your other awesome speakers too. Just an amazing event.
Oh my gosh, we appreciate you so much. So as you were speaking, I got just a couple of questions from partners that I'll ask. In the beginning, you were showing us some of the pictures with how you were studying and, getting used to and really educating yourself with the industry. How long was that? How long did it take you? How many hours did you have to put in to be more comfortable and understand what you have to do?
So it was a lot of hours. I basically took a month straight and full time, pretty much every waking hour. The first month was just reading copy and watching VSLs. I was such a newbie in this industry that I didn't even know about copywriting books, right? I could have just read a book, but I didn't know. So I just studied how other people were doing it. So it's a month of that. Literally, like when I was cleaning the house, I had a VSL playing in the background, or, just sitting for hours and hours and hours. Then my second month, I spent writing a VSL, which I got to the end of and realized it was a huge flop. So I always say you kind of have to write the rough draft first, no matter how much you think I'm going to dive into this and it's going to work. There's something about getting the bad stuff out on paper that then clears out room for the good stuff. So again, a whole month of literally 5 to 7 days a week writing this first VSL that all went in the trash. And then I would say my final VSL took about a month of full time. And I was a beginner copywriter. I know a lot of people can bang these out faster now, but for me, it really took a long time. And then that's the one that succeeded. And over the past 4 years, I should add, I have rewritten my VSL more times than I can count. So it is an ongoing process, but that was the time frame in the beginning.
That's fantastic because, I was chatting about this with one of our other speakers earlier today, and I didn't want to, have you give us this answer, but I'm so glad that you did because, yes, that takes time. You have to put in that time. It's not going to be overnight, right? Everyone thinks you just do a few clicks on your computer and automatically you have a successful offer or a successful pre-sale. So, it's beautiful to see someone that actually put in the time. I mean, a month. Some people think, us in digital marketing are on the beach every day with 30 minutes on our computer, but, especially when you're getting started, I know a lot of you guys watching are thinking about quitting your day jobs and getting into our industry, and of course it's possible, but you have to be determined to put in the hours and work hard.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the biggest myths out there, is that we're living this laptop lifestyle and working a couple of hours a day. I mean, my first couple of years, I was working 7 days a week. I never took a single day off. I'd work all night while the kids were sleeping. Let me just say, it's worth every second. It is absolutely worth every second, but really just try to dive in. Don't try to do it halfway. Immerse yourself completely. That's where the magic happens.
That's awesome. That's another a really good question I see here is, what is one tip that really helped you be more successful? And this can be a tip, about your personal life, the way you decide to do your work, or something, just like a business tip, something that you usually see, ads on online, but, coming from you, it's going to be super valuable.
Yeah, so this is not going to sound very glamorous, and this kind of goes against what most people do in our industry. But like we were talking earlier, um, the single most impactful thing for my long-term success has been that I have just stayed focused on one thing. When I got into this industry, everyone told me, okay, expect this to work for 6 months or maybe a year max, and then it'll fatigue and you'll have to launch your next product. And I see so many offer owners or even affiliates who are trying to place ads, they come in and something works, so then they're like, oh, now I'm going to do something new. What happens is if you take your eye off the thing that's working, it will start to fatigue. It will start to fail. But my product's been running for 4 years and the sales are actually only growing year after year, which is something I never expected. And it's because I've just been really disciplined to kind of stay and do the boring work, to not chase the next shiny object, which I want to do all the time. I am dying to do something new. But staying focused on this one product has been exponentially more profitable and more important to my success.
And courageous. I know I said this before, we weren't recording when I said it, but I just admire you so much because that really, that's courage and determination and discipline. Sticking with the offer and putting in the work. It's so easy to, decide to do something new, and, it's probably more exciting at first, but This is fantastic. And honestly, this is why Back to Life is such a huge brand that we all love, that customers, adore. And, I'm one of the fans on your Facebook page that always likes your stuff because I actually like it. I'm so serious. It's just when, I see you smile and you start telling us about something, I can relate. So I don't know, you're just amazing. So I don't have to say it, but I have to.
Thank you. You're so sweet.
And one more question, I promise, and I'll let you go. Do you think for a product owner, this question is from a product owner, it would be more valuable for him or her to learn how to write copy or invest the money into hiring someone outside? Like, do you think it's better to invest the money in yourself and you to learn how to write the copy, or just hire someone from the outside?
Oh gosh, that is such a hard question. Let me talk about both sides of that coin because writing copy is a totally different skill set that is going to take you away from your main purpose. So for me, I'm a back pain expert. I've worked with clients for years and years and years. When I dove into this business, I'm no longer doing that anymore. My full-time job is copy and marketing. So that's one of the downsides to doing it yourself. I don't believe you can do all of it and do it all well. Like I already had this product, right, that I created once, but now all of my energy is spent on marketing. When I try to go back and forth into content creation versus marketing and copying, it's two very different sides of the brain. And it's hard to be superior at both of them at the same time. So that's one of the benefits of hiring someone else to do it for you is you can stay in your zone of genius. However, on the flip side of that, and the reason why I love writing my own copy is because nobody understands your customer more than you do. Nobody understands their pain points. No one, for me, I'd worked with clients for all these years, so I had all of their stories to tap into. Nobody understands and loves your product as much as you do. Now, don't get me wrong, there are amazing copywriters out there. I hire copywriters to write my email creatives for me, my email swipes, because that is the one thing I just stink at. Like, can't write email swipes. So they're great at that. We go into the product details and they do it well. But if you have the time to write your own copy and you feel like you're inclined to push yourself outside of your comfort zone, writing copy, when you first start writing copy, it feels very, very unnatural. It, to me, made me feel very uncomfortable at first. You have to almost detach from everything else you do and go into this uncomfortable zone to do it. And if you're willing to do it, then the results can be great, but you kind of have to completely immerse yourself into that world. And you are uniquely positioned to be able to do that as long as you are willing to let go of all these other things and also let go of the way you think the copy should be written. Because that's a big thing. A lot of us write copy the way we think it's going to sell. Very rarely does it work the way we think it should. It's usually surprising things that we're like, I can't believe that worked. So you have to kind of like disconnect from your current reality in order to do it. But absolutely, it can be worth it. It's just kind of like, where do you want to spend your time and your energy, and where is your biggest impact in your business?
That's the perfect reply. Thank you. And we could be doing this all day, but we want to make room for the rest of the program. But honestly, I had so much fun with you today, and I genuinely learned so much from it. I made a bunch of notes that I'm going to take back to our content writers. And thank you. You are amazing.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you so much.
An awesome day, and we'll chat later, as we always do.
Always.
Thank you.